introduce herself and host today's conversation. I am really pleased that we are able to have Basmala with us. She is a one of our fellow equity students and just amazing, really. Earlier this month, she hosted our launch where we had Peaches Golding OBE, who was absolutely phenomenal as well. So I am extremely pleased to be able to have Basmala with us. This is going to be an hour and a half, about 45 minutes presentation from Basmala, and then an opportunity for questions at the end. But because it's a small group of us, then please do make sure, please feel comfortable to be able to either post chats in the group or raise your hand for kind of conversations. Hope that's okay, Basmala, and just to make it to make it a really comfortable space where we can just share. Obviously, because there's going to be sensitive conversations that will be brought up in this presentation, please do look after yourselves emotionally, mentally. Remember that there is support within the university through the wellbeing service and staff wellbeing support. And if you need any thing from myself after, please don't hesitate to email me. We will be sharing a survey at the end just to ensure that we kind of are able to evaluate our programs. But thank you everyone for joining us today. I will now pass on to Basmala, who is hosting us for today's conversation.
Thank you, Louise, for this beautiful introduction. I really appreciate it. Hello, everyone. As Louise said, my name is Bassmala Elbushary. I am part of the Equity Program. I'm also a first-year university student studying biomedical science under the Faculty of Health and Applied Sciences. And so from my background is that I'm originally from Sudan and I came to the UK when I was 8. And being in a privileged and a well-developed country made me realize that I can actually go and help people elsewhere around the world, especially in my country, because there's many issues that women face. And today I will just give you some important issues and some solutions about empowering Sudanese women. So now I will go ahead and share the slide with you. I hope that you can see the screen.
Yes. Yep, we can see the screen.
Okay, that's great. So let me give you a bit of background about the organizations that I work with. Firstly, I started working at the Forward organization in 2019. They aim to end violence against women and girls in Africa. And this, I had a strong interest in empowering other women. So being able to be part of this organization, they gave me the leadership training and they gave me some advices and also the guidance to actually go and empower other women. And then I was then transferred to another organization. I'm also presently working with them as well, called the Sub-Saharan Advisory Panel. And they seek to utilize skills, capacity, and knowledge found within the Welsh African diaspora communities for the benefit of all, and by implementing developments, initiatives in Wales and across the Sub-Saharan Africa. So I've included the link below. So after the session, if you would like more information about it, I will post it. So for my social project, I've decided to do a live Facebook session to the Sudanese men and women about the issues that women face in Sudan and how we can address them. I purposely decided to give the awareness to both gender because in order for women to actually be empowered, the other side have to understand exactly what they're going through. And so exposing or trying to identify and make them know exactly what those women are facing, it will give them the empathy to actually work together and to find a solution. And then on the other side, I've also decided to do a private session with all of the Sudanese women in my local area. And it was a really confidential discussion. We've discussed very sensitive topics, and I purposely wanted them to speak up and to feel freely to express their opinions, the issues that they face themselves. And so in order for them to actually feel that inner peace and that inner power as well. So before I start on the whole session, can you all please go to mentimeter.com and enter the code above there, please? I will share the questions right now. The code is at the top right there in the Mentimeter. Can you guys see it?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, that's great. So the first question is, do you know where Sudan is located? I just want to have an overview, some information about if you know a lot about Sudan or not. Okay, that's great. Right, 71% people said yes. Okay, that's actually I was really I was really shocked, because even myself, people say that it's from the north. Some people say it's the east of Sudan. It's just everywhere. People are really confused about it. But the location where Sudan is in the northeast Africa, and so many people assume that it's like north, maybe the south, and also because it's been divided as well. So there's South Sudan and this Sudan. I will go to the next question. Right, this is the hardest one. Which one is the Sudanese flag? I think you can, yeah, you can actually respond into that. 3 responses already, okay. Okay, let's see the answers then. Yeah, 88. 88% said that. Yeah, basically the difference between the A and B is A is the Palestinian flag and C is the Sudanese flag. So they always mix up the, it's really confusing. But I always remember it, the triangle, the green triangle is the Sudanese one. The red triangle is the Palestinian one. Okay, so what is the official language or languages spoken in Sudan? Okay, just wait for 2 seconds for more responses. Okay. Yeah, 86% were correct. 88% are correct. Yeah, they speak Arabic and English. So recently, well, before they spoke lots of, they teach the children in school Arabic and English together. But due to the dictator Umar al-Bashir, he wanted everyone to speak Arabic. So there was a decrease in the English language in Sudan. Right, now, thank you everyone for taking part in the survey on this questionnaire. Now I'll go back to the presentation. I'll share my screen again. Okay. So other facts about Sudan is that in 1956, Sudan gained independence from Britain, and the 1st of January is, even though it's a new year, is also a memorable day for all the Sudanese people. And Sudan itself, the word Sudan, so Sudan in Arabic means Aswad, and Sudan, it means the land of black people. And so it's when basically when Britain, it was conquering the Sudan, they've named it Sudan because most of the people they were mixed of Arab and African, so they called it the Sudan. And the Sudanese flag itself, the colors behind it that was chosen, it has messages as well. For instance, green represents victory, prosperity, and peace. The red color represents the people who sacrificed themselves to gaining independence. White represents the pure and clean heart of the Sudanese people, and black is for the black people in Sudan. So these are just fun facts about Sudan that I wanted to point out before we start on with the actual presentation. So today's session is going to be about the issues that Sudanese women face. So the reproductive health and rights, harmful practices, which includes FGM, forced marriage, child marriage, domestic violence, and lack of education. So I will explore these issues, and then at the end I will provide or think about the possible solutions to solve them. So let's start with the reproductive health and rights. So in the capital city, Khartoum, there is more reproductive rights provided to women, and they actually have the ability and the facilities as well. However, in the countryside or the rural areas, in a place called Kurdufan, there is numerous cases of pregnant women lacking the reproductive basic rights, such as midwives, doctors, and hospitals. And what could that result to? It can result into premature babies, the lack of nutrients provided to the mothers as well, and also it could lead to possible death for both the baby and the mother. And even though when there is no hospitals provided in those rural areas, the mother or the pregnant woman, they have to travel 5 hours just to get to one clinic, a clinic, not even a hospital. And so the lack of care that are provided to those women in rural area, it's unbelievable. And people are not, they're not actually having they're not looking at or identifying or seeking some help or support to provide to those women. And there's many information that you can actually go and research, and I've included the link on this slide as well. Now we come to FGM. So if you can please go back to the Mentimeter, I have a question there about FGM, and I just wanted to know your opinion about it as well. Can you guys go to Mentimeter, please? And is the same code as well? Okay, let's see how many people are voting. Okay, so do you know what FGM stands for? Let's see the results. Correct, yeah, 100%, yeah, that's correct. So female genital mutilation is FGM, and what it is, it's the partial removal or the total removal of the female genitalia, and there's for no medical reasons. So it's just a tradition that that families and the society are actually believing. And so in 2019, the government introduced a law against FGM. However, many people are not taking this new law seriously. For instance, I've heard that some mothers, especially in the rural areas, they trick their daughters. They tell them, "Oh, let's go to your auntie's house or to your uncle's house," and then they take them to a place that it's in the middle of nowhere, and they perform FGM on them. And although that, you know, there's a law against it and there's fines you pay and you can actually get sentenced for many years, they don't care about that. They're very narrow-minded in those kind of terms as well. And that can actually lead to, for instance, difficulties during labor. And there's many issues that actually contribute to FGM, but I don't want to go into it, you know, specifically. But the mindset that some people, especially in the rural areas, that they have regarding FGM still continues until this day. And there's many women who are protesting, giving awareness, doing workshops about FGM. But it's in order for us to actually eradicate this issue, we need to firstly give awareness to the older generation, because they still have that mindset in their mind that, oh, this is the correct way. And the whole concept of FGM and why they introduced it is because they said that it will protect their daughters from doing something that it's not right. So the majority of Sudanese people are Muslims, so they don't want their daughter to actually do something wrong behind, or something that can destroy the family's reputation or her relationship with God. But instead of protecting your daughter by doing, performing FGM on her, you need to discipline her or tell her, no, you shouldn't, it's her own body at the same time. And they shouldn't interfere with someone else's body, because it's just wrong. And people need to just understand that the world is changing, the time is changing. And so those mentalities and those ideas and the cultural ideas that they had for many generations should change. And there's many awareness that the organization I'm working on, they are giving in Sudan and also in other areas in Africa as well. So now we'll go to the next topic, the third topic, which is forced marriage. So forced marriage is a major issue in Sudan, and it still happens right now. And what happens is that when a girl reaches a certain age, the family will encourage her to get married, because that way she can protect the family's reputation. She won't be going around and having multiple relationships. And also being able to, even the marriage itself, they think about it. So in terms of what society look for. So they think those two people will suit, or sometimes it's because the family is poor and their daughter will get rid of that poorness and that poverty, because if she gets married to someone who's rich. So it's all like a plan that society and the family are pressuring the girl to do. And in case the woman says, no, I don't want to get married to this person, the family will disown her easily. So without actually turning back and saying, this is my daughter, I can't just leave her in the street. No, they will just disown her, say to her, no, we don't want you anymore because you're not listening to what we're saying. And so there's no opinion stated from the woman. There's no voice being heard. And even if she goes outside and she says, no, I don't want to be in a relationship with someone that I don't want to be with, and they disown her and kick her out the house, even in the street, she will get harassed, or even raped. And that could still continues, and that still happens. And so in order for her to actually, firstly, feel safe and actually, protect the family's reputation, she will agree to marry someone. And even the marriage itself, there's no legal document signed. It's just a imam saying, yes, you can take my daughter, and the family says yes to this guy. So there's no legal papers, there's no signatures happening, there's no agreement. It's just verbally. And in case of a divorce, the man will have the last say. So for instance, if he comes from work all stressed, or there's something that's bothering him, and because it was forced marriage at the same time, he just doesn't want the woman anymore, he will just tell her that I've divorced you 3 times, because that way she can't come back to you anymore. And that's just verbal, that's verbally divorcing, but where's the legal papers? There isn't something like that. And that's what needs to happen. There needs to be legal papers, because that's the way that there's evidence that yes, you are married to this person, but at the same time, it's that verbal communication, and it's wrong. At the same time, the woman itself, it as if that she just someone who doesn't have a voice, or someone, it's not even someone, they just treating them in a really unfair way. And also so the family, when they're pressuring the girl to marry someone that she doesn't want, that can actually have mental issues as well, which I will talk about later in the next few slides. So this is just an overview of the forced marriage that happens in Sudan. Now we come to child marriage and early marriage. So what is child marriage? Child marriage is when girls who are under the age of 16 are encouraged to get married. And what I mean by encouraged is that from a really young age, for instance, from the age of 10, the family will ingrain in her mind that marriage is the ultimate goal for her. That's her ultimate dream, is to get married and to have children and to go to your husband's house. But why don't you give your daughters advice about, instead of how to run a house, what about how to run a country, or even how to run a company, or being able to actually get a degree and graduate? So education is not even part of the, it's not even in their mind. They didn't even know the definition of it because of how they focused on protecting your daughters and trying to keep them in that safe place. How do you know your daughter is in a safe place if she gets married? There's no evidence for that. And then the second one is the early marriage. So early marriage is teenage years, so it's between 16 and 19. Those girls are actually getting married. They're encouraged to get married, and the marriage itself is they do a really quick process as well, so the girl doesn't have to change her mind at the end. This can actually lead, it could be part of either engaged marriage or forced marriage. And so, as I mentioned before, forced marriage is when the woman is, marrying someone without her will, and if she disagrees, they will disown her. Whilst engaged marriage is when the family, they find someone who's suitable for you, and then they pair you guys together, and you can have the choice to say no or yes. And that can actually, because of the early marriage, either early marriage or child marriage, the women are very young as well. They still haven't matured yet, and that can lead to complications during delivery or death to the mother or the baby. And in many cases, there's a high percentage of the mothers who are dying during labor and also after. They're all under the age of 20. So you can tell that they're just kids themselves, and giving birth to kids is just, is really wrong. And the way that the family is pressuring them, even when they pressure their daughter to actually get married to someone, they will pressure her to have children as well, saying, why you've been married for 1 year, why, where's the baby? It's just saying that they're interfering in everyone's personal life, and that should just stop. Now, we were talking about, before the session itself, I was talking about domestic violence that women face. And in Sudan, the majority of Sudanese women, they experience domestic violence in their life. It could be from their teenage years or even their marriage life, but there is a high rate of it. And they think it's shameful if the woman goes and complains, saying that, oh, I've been abused by my husband, or he's been beating me up or something like that, because they think that, why you spreading or exposing your relationship to the outer world? And is that that pressure of just clumping everyone together, like, trying to close or bottle up all the emotions, all the negative feelings in a bottle, so the people can see the outer vase or the outer appearance of the bottle, saying that you have a happy life or a happy marriage life, but instead deep down you don't know. And I actually included the iceberg image because it shows that when women are experiencing domestic violence, it could have, from the outside, or maybe she's just hurt, or she's just in pain in a few days or something, but underneath you don't know how that can actually mentally affect her, and you don't know the effect that can actually go deep down in her heart. And so what can that result to? It can result to mental health issues. And in mental health issues, it can lead to the mothers feeling depressed, not motivated to do anything, and also being really angry and aggressive towards the children itself, saying that, I don't want to talk to you, or go away. And when the mother is, even if she doesn't show that she's in pain or she's actually suffering, that negative energy can actually be transferred to the children, and that can lead to the future generation, being all in a miserable and depressed house. And if that accumulates, you can have the whole country where every house is just miserable, misery over misery over misery, and over violence and the fighting and the arguments. And then at the end, that can result to those children who will grow up and become adults themselves. They will do the same thing to their wives, or the daughter can actually expect her husband to shout at her and think it's normal because I've seen my mom being shouted at or being beaten up. And so that can lead to lack of confidence, lack of low self-esteem, and the development. So the mental development, in order for the country to actually have peace and to have development itself, there needs to be positive energy and also creative minds to think, oh, this is the issue, we need to find a solution. No, they will be stuck in that solution for many generations and they don't know how to actually get out. And especially in Sudan, mental health is not always being spoken about. They always think it's not that important. As long as the outer picture is amazing and you have a very beautiful family, deep down, it doesn't matter how you feel. And there's many families and many children themselves, they're just in a really miserable state. And the most dangerous part of it is that that woman who's experiencing the domestic violence, when she sees another woman who's really happy in her relationship, they will try to actually transfer that negative energy and the hatred and the jealousy towards that woman. And that woman, the other woman, will be facing the same issue. And so instead of the woman trying to support each other and to empower each other and telling them, yes, you can go and complain to this person, you can come and complain to this, they will actually put on more and more problems on top of that. So, instead of actually trying to build this wall of empowered women, you're actually breaking down into many bricks. And the last but not least is the lack of education. This all ends up down to the lack of education that Sudanese women face. And that could be due to cultural barriers and tradition. So on the right-hand side, I've included pictures of the traditions that we have in Sudan and the culture. For instance, we have the Sudanese thobe, and it's a clothing that we can wear during, for example, it could be wearing it in parties or in events, or also even in the house if you want. And then we have our henna, which is a traditional decoration that girls wear and they put on during celebrations, for example, Eid, or it could be sometimes in weddings. So the bride will have, lots of henna on her hand. And then I've included the picture of our food, which is called asida, and in many other countries, I think they call it fufu. And we eat it a lot during Ramadan because it's really warm and actually you can digest it really well as well. But this is just part of the culture and some of the traditions that we have in Sudan. But how is that linked to education? Well, the Sudanese culture still right now, they believe that women should be in the house and they should be learning how to cook and learning how to clean and being the good girl who's, your voice is not loud. And so in order for them to actually keep that a picture perfect of this woman, she needs to be ideal like this, they need to take away the education. So when we are educated, we know our rights, we know where to actually complain or to speak up when we feel that our rights are being they're being interfered by something else. And we know how to be independent because you know where to find information from, you know how to actually set goals and then achieve them. And so they don't want those women to actually become powerful and not rely on the men anymore. So they take the element of education out. And so, especially in rural areas, the girls can actually become, when they reach the age of 15, they stop going to school and they say to them, no, this is enough, you have enough of education right now, you can now stay at home and get married and have kids. And then when that happens, the woman will actually have, so that can actually have an impact on her kids, because she will teach her daughter, at the age of 15 you stop when you come home, and the son will continue on educate, starting going to university and graduating, and that can lead to there's low numbers of women being employed because there's lack of education being provided to them and the qualifications. And when there's less people being employed as well in the country, the economy of the country decreases as well. And that means there's a delay in the progress of the country and the development itself. And when there's less people are being contributed in society, that is lacking of that education and that progress as well. And why the point that I try to come across is that in terms of education, you should teach your daughters to become independent. So not rely on the man, even when you get married. Like, don't rely on them to actually bring the food home or bring everything home. No, you can teach your daughter to continue her education, to become independent, to seek her own resources, and become a really reliant person. So there's no need for someone to actually come and give her orders or to actually give her money or finances. And the trait or the symptoms that you can see in Sudan is that those women, all of them, they have this, there's a piece of them that is broken. And that's the lack of education, because even if she argues with her husband, she cannot go with her own view. She has to go with his own view, because if she doesn't, he will divorce her, and then she will go back to her family, and her family will say, you brought shame to us, because why aren't you listening to your husband? And the way that the society is being trying to actually draw this line for women to actually go on to saying that this is your life, it should be like that. And more women should actually be aware, and you should actually be brave enough to say, I don't want to live like this. I want to have a better future. I want to be independent. I want to gain my own strength, my own confidence, and I want to gain my own finances. And so in order for us to empower those Sudanese women, we need to give awareness. So for instance, we can provide seminars, workshops, and training. And then we can introduce laws against domestic violence, forced marriage, and child marriage. So when we're providing the seminars, what we're actually doing, we will introduce the key way or guidance for those women to feel empowered. So for instance, when I joined the Forward organization, I didn't feel confident or empowered to actually speak up, especially about those sensitive topics. But what they did is they provided us with the leadership training, 3 days training. They taught us how to speak up, how to have discussions, and how to debate about the sensitive topics and those issues that are happening. And so that's the same thing we can do in the seminars. We can provide the tools and the way for the women to brand or make their information, expand the information, and to make them feel empowered. And another thing we can do is that we can address key solutions to their problems. We can actually include some complaints office near where they live, or some monitors or anything that can actually make them feel safe, or give them that safe space, saying that you can actually come here and talk about your issues and no one is confidential. And that empowerment of we actually try to start with trying to make them speak up firstly. In order for them to make them feel, speak up, we need to provide a safe space, a space that they will be heard, respected, and understood. In terms of the workshops, what we're actually trying to do is try to build their confidence. As I mentioned before, in order for them to speak up, they need to have the confidence to speak up, and to build that trust between each one of them. As I mentioned before, that instead of the women trying to empower each other, they break down each other. And so building that confidence and that trust between them is giving them or allocating teamwork activities, and in that way they can know each other, they can find common grounds, and then they will build that trust between them. And in terms of communication, I'm not only talking about verbal communication, but also the mental communication that you can actually see. So for instance, if a woman is walking in the street alone and she feels that there's someone following her, or there's a sense of uncomfortable atmosphere around her, she can understand exactly what's happening, she can protect herself. And so in terms of the workshop itself, we're trying to bring all of those women together and trying to start a conversation, start talking, instead of hiding all those feelings and all of that stress inside you. Start taking it out and introducing the solutions that you can actually address to society as well. And in terms of providing training, what we can do is, as I mentioned before, from the age of 15, they will stop their daughters from going to school. So they haven't actually finished their full qualifications. So what we can do is we can provide classes so that they have additional support. They can build up that qualification and build up their CV and everything, so they can start finding job and start working. And in terms of the mental health sessions, what we can do is that we can provide a talk, and also we can provide seminars as well, just to outline the key mental health issues that they face and the solutions that they can start to come up with and start to actually implement in their daily life. And then finally, we can set tasks for them to complete. For instance, just how in my organization, they empower other women, we can set them tasks saying, now you find your way to feel confident and to feel empowered. Now, why don't you go and then empower other women? So now we'll have a chain of very powerful women who are not afraid to speak up. And so when you encourage other women, we will start to have a whole nation of powerful women. And that means those issues that I've discussed removed completely from the country. Now, in terms of the law, I did mention before that in 2019, Sudan introduced a new law against FGM. However, many people are not taking this seriously. So what they can do is that they can increase the sentencing years, or they can actually start to have for example, even when the woman who's actually doing the FGM on the girls, they basically, someone needs to know exactly who she is or what they do, because those people are not even qualified, they don't even have a medical degree, and they're doing this dangerous procedures on girls, and it should stop. And firstly, the law should actually monitor it really, really seriously, because they just added this law, but who's monitoring or who's regulating all these issues? And then they can introduce laws against domestic violence, forced marriage, and child marriage. We know that the child marriage and forced marriage, it's similar to each other, but then at the same time, people are keeping silence. They think, I shouldn't interfere, this is family's issue. But what happens if that can actually happen to your daughter or even to your sister? So there needs to be basically the courage, or to have that braveness to actually talk and say, this is wrong and it should stop. And more awareness should be provided as well, as I mentioned before. So before I end this session, I wanted to give you this beautiful quote, and it says, a woman with a voice is by definition a strong woman. And that is why I started working in these organizations, to empower other women to speak up. Instead of having one, we can have millions and millions of women to speak about the issues that they have and the solutions that they can actually encounter in our society as well. So thank you everyone for coming here and actually listening to the talk. I really appreciate your time, and I hope that you found this talk useful. Thank you so much. Thank you. I will send the links for the information that I've got, the statistics. I can send it to you guys. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Did anybody have any questions for Bassmala?
Hi. Yeah, I really enjoyed that. I was really getting into it. Have you got any examples of because I presume you're doing this work in the UK, is that right?
Yeah.
Is it, how much of an issue is it in the UK, these things that you're talking about for the Sudanese women? And is there anything happening or changing that you've been involved in?
Yes, I did. So basically right now I'm starting a project in Sudan, and what we're doing is we're trying to develop the rural areas. So we've started to create the project itself. So we're trying to find the fundings and the partnership with other organizations in Sudan. What we're doing is, firstly, we will provide the awareness about women hygiene. And then at the same time, we're going to provide clean water. And then, because in those rural areas as well, there isn't many toilet facilities, so we're trying to build toilets as well.
And so you're part
Yeah.
of doing the work out in Sudan? Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
And do you get to go up there a lot then?
Sorry?
Do you get to travel there?
Well, to be honest, I was planning to travel, but due to the corona, I couldn't. So I'm doing everything virtually. So what I do is I do a weekly meeting with the other organization in Sudan and trying to finalize everything.
Right. Oh, good luck with that.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Does anybody else have any other questions they would like to ask?
I will write it down here. Someone says the name of the organization.
Amazing. Amazing. I guess I have a question to just try and also keep track of the chat. I have a question in terms of what would be kind of your hope like in 5-10 years time? I mean, I know there's all these different conversations on any kind of protected characteristics in terms of gender and race. I think sometimes it's so easy for us to we always want we do want things to get better, but it takes a while for that to happen. But if you could have a tangible like change, what would that look like for you? Like in the next 5 years is probably more easy lifespan.
My vision for the future is that there shouldn't be a difference between men and women, and they shouldn't have those different treatments provided to women and men. So my vision is that I would like to see more women in suits and more women in office and more women in authority, position, for example, maybe a prime minister or an MP or a woman who's running a company. So I have really big issues, and I've got really big visions and hope that the future will become better, especially not only in Sudan, but also around the world as well.
No, I love that. I love that. And I think it does there's been examples both here in the UK and like abroad that like when women are in positions of leadership or empowerment, because I think it's not everyone aspires to be a CEO or that kind of thing, but I think we do need more women in those decision making positions.
Exactly. Also, not only even if the woman is not really into the leadership roles, we can provide them with workshops or seminars about how can you speak up, even if it's something really small. For instance, if you're in a house and your family says, oh, you're going to do this way, or you're going to go this way, or do something their way, you can just state, no, I don't want to, I want to do it my way. So it's just building that confidence for them to speak up and to not be afraid to say no.
No, that's everything you've said is just so important.
Yeah.
Does anybody else have any other questions they'd like to ask? Either questions or comments or conversations. It doesn't have to be a question, or reflections on the talk.
I think someone has their hands up.
Yeah. Feel
Hello,
free
Bassmala.
to ask your question.
Hello.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Hi, Louise. It's
Hi,
been a very long time I've seen you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Bassmala, for the talk. It was very, very interesting. Just a couple of points that I observed. A lot of these practices that I've noticed,
Yeah.
they're actually quite common, and it's just the understanding behind that and how to tackle it. So
Definitely.
the socio-political environment as well. So Sudan, a lot of these countries that are going through, they have these practices. They're going through huge poverty at the moment, and they are in a lot of debt. Also, they are actually being abused by other countries, and that's something very important to recognize. Why is it that people are actually going through this and the impact that it has?
Exactly.
So poverty has a huge impact on education.
Yeah.
And people's knowledge is lacking from a religious perspective, and also from a secular perspective. I'll take like a couple of examples that you mentioned in the talk. So remember what you mentioned about divorce?
Yeah.
About a man can come to the house, and for example, he has an argument with his wife, or he's not happy about something, and he can just divorce her 3 times.
Yeah, that's true.
Now, actually, if there was just a little bit of religious education on that perspective, majority of the divorces won't take place, because like from an Islamic perspective, for a woman to get divorced, or like for a man to initiate divorce, there's conditions. So, for example, he cannot divorce her while she's on her period. He cannot divorce her between 2 periods where they had intimacy. So basically what that means is, for example, I come home and let's say I have an argument with my wife and I'm really not happy with her, and I think, you know what, I need to end this marriage. In order for me to do so, I have to wait until she has a period, until she finishes her menstrual cycle, and then I can initiate divorce. So what that does, it prevents majority of the cases of it taking place, because, you know, in the heat of the moment, people don't think clearly.
Yeah, that's true.
That's number one. Also, a person cannot actually divorce his wife 3 times in a go. He can only divorce her once, and then he has to wait like the 3 months waiting period. So, and this is just a simple example that, you know what, lack of education, even from a religious perspective, leads to huge amount of ramifications in the entire society. And it's down to, like, we don't invest in our teachers, we don't invest in the imams. So, for example, the scholars, and this is something really, because it's important to ask people on the ground as well as people from outside the country, because for example, in Muslim countries, you have the Friday Jummah prayers.
Yeah, that's true.
Now, one of the purpose behind the Friday Jummah is you have everyone pretty much within society are forced to come and attend that meeting or the education seminar. And the key objective behind that is actually to educate the masses. However, like the imams, like especially when they're living in such a poverty without any income, they don't focus on their own development. So an imam is in a position of leadership, and he's in a position that he needs to educate the masses. And sometimes it's actually, you know what, and this is actually from an aspect of how to invest into making changes, is to invest in teachers and invest in these local imams. Because if they are educated, people look up to them. People look up to teachers. And people look up to imams. If they're educated and they are empowered, they in turn can empower so many other people. So an imam can have an influence over thousands of people. A teacher can have influence over like thousands of children. And it's very, very important to just really focus on this and to recognize, you know what, especially looking at the climate or the environment that you're working with. So, for example, you're working with people who are Muslims. It's important to actually recognize, you know what does Islam say that support this ideal vision that we have, and how to educate ourselves and how to empower them. So from within, they can in turn empower other people. And a lot of the examples that you mentioned about child marriages, about FGM, about the divorces, about all of these, I was thinking to my head, you know, if people just understood what is required from them from a legal perspective, especially within Islam, maybe about 99% of these problems will be eradicated.
Exactly.
And education is such a key thing, and we need to focus so much on an element of educating people.
Awareness. Yeah. Exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And also,
that's really good. Yeah.
Exactly the point when you said about educating those imams or those priests, because the majority of Sudanese people are Muslim, but there's some of them who are Christians as well from other religion. So to educate all of those religious leaders, that means it will have a big impact on the people itself. And in terms of the point you said about divorce, a long time ago, it was just a law that was introduced recently, but before, when the woman is divorced from her husband, the husband is legally have the right to actually take the children away from her, take custody. And that happened to one of my cousins as well, where she got divorced to her husband, and then he said to her, in order for me to give you the divorce paper, I will take the child. And so that unfairness treatment that they provided there is just unbelievable, and there needs to be awareness saying that, you know, the woman has the right to actually take care of her own child as well. And then there needs to be more of those awareness as well. And in terms of the FGM itself, you know, FGM itself, even though it's a medical procedure that they're older women as well, so they don't have a medical degree. They're older women who are doing this or performing this FGM on young girls. And what they do is, even though it's been legal right now in Sudan, they do it behind the government's back because it brings them money. It's very expensive to do FGM there. So for them, it's like it's a job saying that I need to live, so I'm going to do FGM on those girls so I can get money. So there's a
poverty. Yeah, it's affecting that poverty.
The poverty itself, and society is pressuring those girls to actually keep that picture perfect of the ideal woman.
Yeah, and another element as well, actually, part of the education, it's not just about the sciences, but empathy, actually making people walk in other people's shoes.
Yeah.
And it's very, very important to help people understand this. So, you know, a lot of the issues that you said about, child custody and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because people now, they just look at how can I get my way.
Yeah.
And without there's no consideration. So for example, you probably understand a bit of Arabic, the aspect of taqwa.
Yeah.
Yeah, aspect of, how am I going to be held accountable for this?
Exactly.
From a taqwa perspective. And there is a huge element. So education and the element of social, like empathy is so important. And I'm really, I'm considering you're a first year student and you're really thinking at this level. I'm really impressed, I've got to say.
So I really hope that you find it really useful.
Yeah, we definitely I'm thinking of a long term. So for example, I got invited to this by Selma from the ISOC. I'm thinking it'd be beneficial for you actually to hold an event with them.
Yeah, exactly. And then the whole point of giving this talk and this awareness is that for the people who attended, they now have an awareness about what are the key issues that women face, and that means you can give that awareness to people that you know as well. And so that means we have a whole nation of people who are just aware of the issues that are happening, and they know how to find the solutions as well.
Brilliant. No, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. That was very interesting. Interesting discussion and conversation, because I think it's something that is probably not talked about openly.
Yeah.
And I think if there's a level of shame associated to it, then I think that's when issues can really exasperate, and people don't know where to go and all this kind of thing. So yeah. But no, this is
Yeah. And then there was one point I wanted to talk about, which is sometimes when people show their vulnerability, they think it's a weakness, but it isn't. It's good. It's a good sign. Though. It's actually a sign of strength that you're being vulnerable to people and speaking up about issues you face. And so to be able to actually come to that state of saying, I can actually, tell people exactly how I'm feeling, it takes a lot of courage. And those Sudanese women, especially those women who they feel weak, or they feel that people are going to judge them and saying, you're really, how can you speak openly saying that I feel broken, or I feel I'm not happy in this house, or I feel like I'm not actually being, looked at or even respected in this society. So there's a bit of embarrassment or a bit of shame in saying, this is my true feelings. And so we need to change that perspectives and to change the mindset, saying it's all right to be vulnerable. It's all right to point out or to even cry and say, I am feeling broken and I don't like this.
Yeah, no, completely agree with everything you said, basically. And that, yeah, completely agree with everything you said. So thank you so much for sharing. I would like to. I feel like we've covered all the questions the everyone who's attended has. So I'm just going to give a window for any final questions from the audience. Basmala, have you shared in terms of anyone wants to kind of keep in touch with you personally, or if in terms of the work that you do? I know you've shared about the organisation, but if you're happy to, then it might be a good thing to share
My
your
email.
details.
Yeah. That's all right. I wanted to ask the audience if they wanted the slides.
That would be beneficial, yes. Which we can either, if you're happy to, yes, please. Either if you're happy to post it on the chat, that will probably be the easiest way. I am about to post the link to our survey, if you would be so kind, in terms of everyone who's attended, to take the time to complete this so we can evaluate our programs. And otherwise, that is everything for today. And just thank you again, Basmala, for doing an exceptional presentation and overview. And to everyone who has attended, please do keep an eye out. There's more events happening for Women's History Month. We're now in the 3rd week of March, so there's still 1 week, the end of this week, and then another week to go. But yeah, thank you so much everyone for joining us. This event will be available on recording in the next few weeks once we share it to our team. But yeah, do keep involved and engaged in terms of gender equality at UE and equality and diversity work in general.
Thank you so much. Louise, can I send you my presentation?